Jake Morrison stood at the observation window and watched the creature pace inside the containment chamber. The beast was massive, easily twice the size of an earth lion, with midnight blue scales that caught the station lights. Its 6 legs moved with a rhythm that reminded Jake of a caged tiger he once saw at a rescue center back home. That tiger had the same look in its eyes. Fear dressed up as rage. "That thing has put 3 handlers in the medical bay," said Commander Greg Hayes. The security chief crossed his arms and frowned. 2 of them were experts. Been working with dangerous animals for 20 years each. Jake kept watching. The creature's tail lashed back and forth, smashing against the reinforced walls. Every few seconds, it would stop and sniff the air, then resume its endless pacing. "What do you think?" asked Ambassador Kate Sullivan. She was Jake's boss, the human representative to the Galactic Council. She looked tired. The emergency session had been going on for 3 days. "I think it's scared," Jake said. Greg laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Scared? That beast killed a security drone yesterday, tore it apart with its teeth. Scared things attack," Jake replied. "I used to work at an animal shelter. The meanest dogs were always the most frightened ones," Kate sighed. "The Emperor is desperate. This creature, they call it a Vorkon, has been bonded to his family line for 3,000 years. Without it, he can't perform any official ceremonies. The whole Talvesh government is stuck." Jake turned away from the window. "Why did they ask for us?" "Earth just joined the council 2 years ago. Because 17 handlers have failed," Kate said. "They've tried everything their experts know. The Emperor heard about human methods with animals. He thinks maybe we see things differently." "We do," Jake said. He looked back at the Vorkon. "But I'm not an expert. I just worked with dogs and cats. Some horses. This is an alien creature. You're all we have," Kate said softly. The door to the observation room opened. 2 figures entered. One was tall and elegant, with silver skin that seemed to glow. That was Emperor Zalthor. The other was shorter but powerfully built, covered in brown fur with golden eyes. That was High Handler Velmon, the best beastmaster the Talvesh had. "Ambassador Sullivan," the Emperor said. His voice was deep and musical. "Thank you for coming. I apologize for the urgent nature of this request." Kate bowed slightly. "Your Majesty, this is Jake Morrison, our animal behavior specialist." Velmon looked at Jake with obvious doubt. "This human is young. What experience does he have?" 5 years working with traumatized animals on Earth," Jake said. He tried to sound confident. "Dogs mostly. Some wildlife rehabilitation." "Dogs," Velmon repeated. The word sounded like an insult. "I have trained creatures from 40 different worlds. I have handled predators that could swallow your dogs whole. The Vorkon rejected me." "What did you do when you tried to handle it?" Jake asked. Velmon's golden eyes narrowed. "I entered with the traditional tools. The calming staff. The dominant stance. I showed the beast that I was the master. And it attacked you. It attempted to. I subdued it with the neural dampener, but the bond did not form. A true bonding requires willing submission, not forced compliance." Jake nodded. "Have you tried not dominating it?" The room went silent. Velmon's fur bristled. "You suggest that I, who have bonded with 37 creatures across the galaxy, do not know my profession?" "I'm suggesting that maybe this creature needs something different," Jake said. He felt his heart racing but kept his voice calm. "On Earth, we learned that dominance doesn't work with traumatized animals. You have to earn their trust first." Emperor Zalthor raised one elegant hand. "Peace, Velmon. The human offers a different perspective. That is why we asked for their help." He turned to Jake. "Young human, I am desperate. My people need their ceremonies. Without the Vorkon at my side, I cannot crown the new council members. I cannot bless the harvest festivals. My authority weakens every day." "I understand," Jake said. "But I need to be honest. I don't know if I can help. I've never seen anything like this creature before. Yet you will try? The Emperor asked. Jake looked back through the window. The Vorkon had stopped pacing. It sat on its haunches, staring at the wall. Its tail still twitched, but slower now. Something about its posture reminded Jake of a dog he once rescued. A German shepherd that had been abused by its owner. That dog took 6 months to trust humans again, but eventually, it did. I'll try, Jake said. But I need time. And I need to do things my way. How much time? Asked Kate. She sounded worried. I don't know. Days, maybe. Weeks if it's really scared. Weeks? Velmon barked. Impossible. The coronation ceremony is in 10 days. We need the Vorkon ready. Then get someone else, Jake said. He met Velmon's angry stare. I can't rush trust. Either give me the time I need, or find a different handler. Emperor Zalthor studied Jake for a long moment. You speak boldly for one, so inexperienced. I speak honestly, Jake replied. That creature is terrified. I can see it from here. Whatever happened to it, someone hurt it badly. You can't force a traumatized animal to trust you in 10 days. You truly believe the Vorkon is frightened? The Emperor asked. It appears quite aggressive to me. Fear and aggression look the same sometimes, Jake said. A scared dog bites. A scared cat scratches. They're not mean. They're protecting themselves from something they think will hurt them. The Emperor was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded slowly. Very well. You will have your time, Jake Morrison. But I must see progress. The council grows impatient. I'll do my best, Jake said. Velmon made a sound like a growl. If the human fails, it will prove that our methods are superior. Dominance is the foundation of all beast handling. This talk of trust and patience is weakness. Maybe, Jake said. Or maybe your methods are why the Vorkon keeps rejecting handlers. Velmon turned and left the room without another word. Emperor Zalthor watched him go, then looked at Jake. I hope you are correct, human, for all our sakes. The Emperor left as well, his silver form seeming to drift rather than walk. Kate waited until the door closed. That was brave. And maybe a little stupid. Yeah, Jake admitted. I'm feeling that now. Greg shook his head. You better know what you're doing, Morrison. If you screw this up, it's not just you who looks bad. It's all of Earth. Jake looked back at the Vorkon. The creature had curled up in the corner now, its head resting on its front legs. It looked so much smaller like that. Almost vulnerable. I know, Jake said quietly. No pressure, right? He pressed his hand against the window. The Vorkon's eye opened and fixed on him. For just a second, Jake could have sworn he saw something in that alien gaze. Not hatred or rage, something softer. Something that looked a lot like hope. Tomorrow, Jake whispered. Tomorrow we start. Jake spent his first day watching video files. The station's computer had recorded every attempt to handle the Vorkon, and Jake made himself watch all 17 failures. Each one made him wince. Dr. Lisa Park sat next to him in the research room. She was a xenobiologist, assigned by Kate to help Jake understand the creature's physical needs. She had kind eyes and spoke softly, which Jake appreciated. Everyone else on the station seemed to shout. This one's hard to watch, Lisa warned as another video started. On the screen, a handler from the Drex species approached the Vorkon. The Drex were large, insect-like beings with natural armor. This handler carried a long staff that hummed with energy. He pointed it at the Vorkon and spoke in a harsh, clicking language. The Vorkon backed into a corner. Its scales went from blue to dark purple. Jake had learned that meant extreme stress. He's telling it to submit, Lisa translated, saying he is the master, and it must obey. The Vorkon lunged. The Drex handler used his staff, and electricity crackled through the air. The creature howled and fell. Even through the video, Jake could feel its pain. Enough, Jake said. Stop the video. Lisa paused it. That was attempt number 12. The handler walked away with broken ribs. said the Vorkon was a lost cause. They're all doing the same thing, Jake said. He rubbed his eyes. The last 6 hours of watching had given him a headache. Every single handler comes in showing dominance. Standing tall, making loud noises, carrying weapons. That's standard procedure across most species, Lisa said. You establish yourself as the alpha. The creature learns its place in the hierarchy. But it's not working, Jake said. Look at the pattern. The more they try to dominate it, the more violent it gets. It's not refusing to submit. It's refusing to be hurt again. Lisa pulled up some biological scans. I've been studying its medical records. The Vorkon has old injuries. See here? This bone in the front left leg was broken at some point and healed incorrectly. And these neural patterns suggest chronic pain. Jake leaned closer to the screen. It's in pain? All the time? Looks like it. The previous handler, before it went violent, noted that it favored that leg. But no one could get close enough to treat it. They tried using sedatives, but Vorkans have unusual biology. The drugs either don't work or make them sick. So it's scared and hurting, Jake said. And every time someone tries to help, they come in like a threat. No wonder it attacks. Lisa nodded. What's your plan? I need to observe it. Not just through videos. I want to watch it in real time. See how it behaves when no one's trying to handle it. That's going to take time. The council observers are already complaining that you haven't entered the chamber yet. Let them complain, Jake said. I'm not going in there until I understand what I'm dealing with. For the next 3 days, Jake did nothing but watch. He set up a chair outside the containment chamber and sat there for 12 hours each day. He brought food, water, and a blanket. He watched the Vorkon pace and rest and pace again. On the second day, Greg stopped by. You know people are talking, right? Saying you're too scared to go in. Maybe I am, Jake said. But scared people don't rush in. They wait until they know what they're doing. Fair enough, Greg said. He brought Jake a cup of coffee from the station's mess hall. What are you learning? It has a routine, Jake said. Every morning at 0600, it does a circuit of the whole chamber, checking every corner, like it's making sure nothing changed while it slept. That's a predator behavior, Greg said, securing its territory. Or a prey behavior, Jake countered, making sure nothing's sneaking up on it. Watch how it checks behind the columns. That's not confidence. That's paranoia. Greg watched for a few minutes. I'll be damned. You're right. It's acting like something's hunting it. On the third day, Lisa joined him with her scanning equipment. I've been running remote analysis. The pain signature is stronger than I thought. That leg isn't just uncomfortable. It's causing significant neural stress. Can you fix it? Jake asked. If I could get close enough, yes. But that requires the Vorkon to hold still for at least an hour. Based on its behavior, that's not happening with force. What if it chose to hold still? Jake asked. What if it trusted someone enough to let them help? Lisa looked doubtful. That's a big if. It's the only if that matters, Jake said. That afternoon, Ambassador Kate came by with bad news. The council wants results. Emperor Zalthor is under pressure from his advisors. They're saying maybe the bonding tradition should end, that it's outdated. That would destroy him, Jake said. He had learned about Talavesh culture from Lisa. The Emperor's bond with the Vorkon was sacred. Without it, he was just another politician. I know, Kate said, but we're running out of time. They want you to make an attempt tomorrow. Even if you're not ready. Tomorrow's too soon, Jake said. It's not a request, Kate said gently. I'm sorry. I tried to buy you more time. Jake looked at the Vorkon. It was resting in its usual spot, the corner farthest from the entrance. Its eyes were half closed, but Jake knew it wasn't really sleeping. It was watching, always watching. Fine, Jake said. Tomorrow, but no observers, no cameras, no one watching from outside. Jake, that's against protocol. We need to document everything. No, Jake said firmly. That creature knows when people are watching. I've seen it. Every time someone stands at the window, it gets more agitated. If I'm going in there, I'm going in alone. Kate looked troubled. If something happens to you, then it happens, Jake said, but I won't get anywhere with an audience. The Vorkon needs to know I'm not performing. I'm not trying to prove dominance. I'm just there. I'll have to ask the Emperor, Kate said. 2 hours later, she came back. He agreed. 1 hour. No observers. But the security team will be standing by outside. If they hear sounds of an attack, they're coming in. Fair enough, Jake said. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the shelter back on Earth. About the German shepherd that took 6 months to trust him. About the first time it let him touch its head without flinching. He remembered how it felt. That moment when a terrified animal decided to take a chance on kindness. He thought about what Velmon had said. Dominance is the foundation of all beast handling. Maybe that was true for some species. But humans had learned something different over thousands of years. They learned that trust beat dominance every time. You could force an animal to obey, but you couldn't force it to bond. The next morning, Jake stood outside the containment chamber. He wore simple clothes. Nothing threatening. No tools. No weapons. Just himself. Lisa checked her scanner. Its stress levels are elevated. It knows something's different today. That's okay, Jake said. Let it be nervous. I'm nervous too. Greg checked his weapon. We'll be right outside. You shout if you need help. I won't shout, Jake said. If I'm in trouble, you'll hear it. That thing's not quiet when it attacks. Kate put a hand on his shoulder. Be careful. Earth needs you in one piece. Jake smiled, though it felt shaky. No pressure, right? He took a deep breath and nodded to the technician. The door opened with a hiss. Jake stepped inside. The Vorkon was on its feet immediately. Its scales shifted to dark purple. Its tail lashed. A low growl rumbled through the chamber. And Jake felt it in his chest. The door closed behind him. He was alone with the Emperor's beast. Jake didn't make eye contact. He didn't stand tall or speak loudly. He simply walked to the side of the chamber and sat down on the floor. He crossed his legs and rested his hands in his lap. Then he waited. The Vorkon watched him. Its eyes were bright yellow, like molten gold. They fixed on Jake, with an intensity that made his skin prickle. Every muscle in the creature's body was tense, ready to spring. Jake let out a slow breath and closed his eyes. He heard the Vorkon move, heard its claws scraping on the metal floor. He heard it breathing, fast and shallow. But he didn't look. He just sat there, making himself as small and unthreatening as possible. Minutes passed. The chamber was silent except for breathing. His and the creature's. It's okay, Jake whispered. I'm not going to hurt you. The Vorkon growled again, but quieter this time. More uncertain. Jake kept his eyes closed and listened. The Vorkon was moving, circling him slowly. He could hear each footfall, the slight drag of that injured front leg. The creature was trying to figure him out, trying to understand why this human wasn't acting like the others. You're confused, aren't you? Jake said softly. He kept his voice low and calm, the same tone he used with frightened dogs. All those other handlers came in here acting tough, showing you they were strong. But I'm not here to fight, I'm just here, the Vorkon snorted. Jake felt warm breath on his neck. The creature was right behind him now, close enough to kill him in one quick motion. His heart hammered in his chest, but he forced himself to stay still. I used to work with animals back on Earth, Jake continued. There was this dog once. Big German shepherd. Someone had beat him real bad. When he came to the shelter, he'd attack anyone who came near. Everyone said he was dangerous. Said we should put him down. The Vorkon moved around to Jake's side. Through his peripheral vision, Jake could see it lowering its head, sniffing at him. But I didn't think he was dangerous, Jake said. I thought he was scared. So I did what I'm doing now. I sat with him. Didn't try to touch him. Didn't try to make him do anything. Just sat there day after day, showing him I wasn't going to hurt him. The creature's breathing had slowed. It wasn't growling anymore. Jake risked opening his eyes a little. The Vorkon was sitting about 3 feet away, watching him with those golden eyes. Its tail still twitched, but the aggressive posture had softened. "Took 6 months," Jake said. 6 months before that dog let me pet him. But when he finally did, when he finally trusted me, he was the sweetest animal I ever knew. All that aggression was just fear. Once the fear was gone, all that was left was a good boy who wanted someone to care about him. Jake slowly reached into his pocket. The Vorkon tensed immediately. Jake moved even slower, pulling out a small piece of dried meat. It was from the station's supplies. Something Lisa had said was compatible with the creature's diet. "I'm not going to throw this at you," Jake said. "I'm not going to make you take it from my hand. I'm just going to put it down here, okay? You can have it if you want. Or you can ignore it. Your choice." He placed the meat on the floor between them and pulled his hand back. The Vorkon stared at it, then at Jake, then back at the meat. Its nostrils flared. Jake could see the hunger in its eyes. How long had it been since it ate without fear? The creature stretched its neck forward, keeping its body back, ready to bolt. Its tongue flicked out and snatched the meat. It chewed quickly, swallowing without really tasting. "Good," Jake said. "See? I'm safe. I'm not here to hurt you." He placed another piece of meat, this time a little closer to himself. The Vorkon hesitated longer this time, but eventually took it. Jake noticed the way it moved, the slight hitch in that front leg. The pain was obvious once you knew to look for it. "That leg hurts, doesn't it?" Jake asked. "I can see you favoring it. Lisa thinks she can fix it. But you'd have to let her near you. That's scary." "I know. Letting someone touch something that hurts. But I promise, she only wants to help." The Vorkon tilted its head, like it was trying to understand his words. Of course it couldn't understand English. But maybe it could hear the tone, the gentleness, the lack of threat. Hours passed. Jake stayed sitting, occasionally talking, sometimes silent. He placed food every so often, and the Vorkon took it, each time getting a little less cautious. The creature never fully relaxed, but its scales had shifted from dark purple to a lighter blue. That was progress. Jake's legs were cramping from sitting so long, but he didn't dare move too much. The Vorkon had started to settle. Lying down about 2 feet away, it was watching him with one eye open, the other closed, almost peaceful. "I know you're tired," Jake said. "Tired of being scared. Tired of fighting. It's exhausting, isn't it? Always having to be ready for the next attack." The Vorkon's eye closed fully. Its breathing deepened. Jake realized with amazement that it was actually falling asleep. Here, in the same room with a human. It felt safe enough to sleep. Jake's watch beeped softly. 1 hour had passed. His time was up. Outside, they'd be expecting him to leave. But he couldn't. Not now. Not when the Vorkon was finally starting to trust. He stayed quiet, letting the creature rest. 30 more minutes passed, then an hour. Jake's back ached, and his legs had gone numb, but he didn't move. Finally, the door chimed softly. Kate's voice came through the speaker. "Jake? Your hour's up. We need you to come out." The Vorkon woke instantly. Its eyes snapped open, scales darkening. It looked at the door, then at Jake, confused and frightened. "It's okay," Jake said quickly. "Nothing bad's happening. I just have to go for now. But I'll come back, I promise." He stood slowly, his knees protesting. The Vorkon stood too, its body tense again. Jake took a step toward the door, and the creature made a sound. Not a growl. Something different, something that sounded almost like distress. Jake stopped. The Vorkon was watching him with what he could only describe as disappointment. It had just started to feel safe, and now he was leaving. "I'm sorry," Jake said. His throat felt tight. "I have to go, but I'll be back tomorrow." Same time. I'll sit with you again. Okay? He took another step. The Vorkon took a step too, following him. Jake's heart skipped. The creature was following him, not attacking. It didn't want him to leave. Tomorrow, Jake said again. I promise. He reached the door, and it opened. He stepped through quickly before the Vorkon could try to follow. The door sealed behind him. Kate, Lisa, and Greg were all waiting. They looked shocked. You were in there for 2.5 hours, Kate said. We were about to send in the security team. It was sleeping, Jake said. He felt shaky now that the adrenaline was wearing off. It actually fell asleep near me. Impossible, said a voice. Velmond stepped forward from where he'd been watching on a monitor. Despite Jake's request for no observers, someone had obviously been recording. The Vorkon never sleeps in the presence of others. Its instincts won't allow it. Well, it did, Jake said. Because it was starting to trust me. Velmond studied the monitor replay. Jake could see his own figure sitting motionless on the floor, the Vorkon gradually relaxing beside him. The handler's expression was unreadable. You did nothing, Velmond said. You established no dominance. You gave no commands. You simply sat. Yes, Jake said. And that worked better than my 30 years of training. Velmond's voice was flat. Different doesn't mean better, Jake said carefully. Your methods probably work great for other creatures. But this one needed something else. It needed to know it was safe before it could trust anyone. Lisa pulled up her scans. Look at this. The Vorkon's stress hormones dropped by 40% during Jake's session. And look here. At the neural patterns. That's the signature of a creature experiencing calm. I've never seen that in any previous recordings. One session proves nothing, Velmond said. But he didn't sound as confident as before. Maybe not, Jake agreed. But it's more progress than 17 other handlers made. And I'm going back tomorrow. Emperor Zalthor entered the observation room. Everyone bowed except Jake, who was too tired to remember protocol. I watched your session, Jake Morrison, the Emperor said. Most unusual. You treated the Vorkon not as a beast to be mastered, but as a person to be understood. Where I come from, we learned that animals are people too, Jake said. Different kinds of people, maybe. But they have feelings. They get scared and hurt and lonely. They want to be safe and cared for, just like us. The Emperor nodded slowly. My people have forgotten this. We see the Vorkon as a tool, a symbol. We forgot that it is also a living being, with needs of its own. Archon, with respect, Your Majesty, Velmond said. The Vorkon is still unbonded. One peaceful session does not mean the human can complete the bonding ritual. True, the Emperor said. But it is closer than anyone else has come. Jake Morrison may continue. Jake nodded gratefully. Thank you. But I have a request. I need Lisa with me tomorrow. If we can treat that leg injury, the Vorkon will trust us even more. You want to try medical treatment? Lisa asked. Jake, that's risky. If we hurt it while trying to help, it's already hurting, Jake said. Every day. Every hour. If we can take that pain away, imagine how that would change everything. Lisa looked uncertain but nodded. I'll prepare the treatment. But we'll need it to stay very still. The procedure takes at least an hour. Leave that to me, Jake said. He looked through the window at the Vorkon. The creature was back to pacing, but slower now, less frantic. As Jake watched, it paused and looked toward the door, toward where Jake had left. It's waiting, Greg said quietly. Waiting for you to come back. I know, Jake said. I won't let it down. Jake entered the containment chamber the next morning with Lisa right behind him. She carried her medical equipment in a quiet anti-gravity case that floated beside her. The Vorkon was already waiting, sitting near the door like it had been expecting them. Okay, remember, Jake said quietly to Lisa. Move slow. No sudden movements. Let it see everything you're doing. I'm terrified, Lisa admitted. What if it attacks while I'm working? It won't, Jake said. He hoped he sounded more confident than he felt. Trust me. And more importantly, trust it. The Vorkon watched them approach. Its scales were a neutral blue, not the dark purple of fear or the pale blue of aggression. Jake took that as a good sign. He sat down in the same spot as yesterday, and Lisa settled nearby with her equipment. Hey there, Jake said to the creature. Remember me? I came back. Just like I promised. The Vorkon tilted its head. It was definitely studying Jake, like it was trying to understand why this human kept returning, why he didn't try to dominate or hurt it. Jake pulled out more of the dried meat and placed a piece on the floor. The Vorkon came forward immediately and took it. No hesitation this time. It was learning that Jake meant safety and food. Good, Jake said. Now, I brought my friend Lisa. She's really nice. She wants to help with your leg, the one that hurts. Would that be okay? Of course, the creature couldn't understand his words. But it could hear the tone, see the gentle body language. Jake placed another piece of meat, this time between himself and Lisa. The Vorkon looked at Lisa warily but took the food anyway. Smart, Lisa whispered. You're associating me with positive things. That's the idea, Jake said. Now, can you scan it without touching? Lisa activated her medical scanner. It hummed softly, and the Vorkon's ears flicked toward the sound. Its body tensed. Easy, Jake said. It's just a sound. Nothing scary. Just a tool to help. He kept talking, his voice steady and calm, while Lisa worked. The scanner's light played over the Vorkon's body, and Jake could see the creature's confusion. It wanted to run, but it also wanted to stay near Jake. The damage is worse than I thought, Lisa said, studying her readings. The bone healed wrong, and it's pressing on a major nerve cluster. That's why it's in constant pain. Poor thing's been suffering for months, maybe years. Can you fix it? Jake asked. Yes, but I need to apply a regenerative patch directly to the skin. That means touching it. And the patch will tingle for about an hour while it works. It won't hurt, but it'll feel strange. Jake looked at the Vorkon. Hear that, buddy? Lisa needs to touch your leg. I know that's scary. But I promise. She's only trying to help. No one here wants to hurt you. He reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out more food. But this time, instead of placing it on the floor, he held it in his open palm. The Vorkon stared at his hand. This was different. This required trusting Jake enough to put its teeth near him. It's okay, Jake said. You can take it. I won't grab you. I won't hurt you. The Vorkon leaned forward, neck stretched as far as it would go. Its hot breath washed over Jake's palm. Then, very gently, it took the food. Its teeth never touched Jake's skin. Jake's heart was racing, but he smiled. Good boy, he whispered. Such a good boy. The Vorkon's scales shifted slightly, taking on a warmer hue. Jake had learned that meant contentment. The creature was pleased with itself, pleased that it had been brave enough to trust. I'm going to try now, Lisa said. She moved very slowly, reaching toward the injured leg. The Vorkon watched her hand with wide eyes. Its tail began to lash. Hey, Jake said, drawing the creature's attention back to him. Look at me. That's it. Look right here. Nothing bad's happening. Lisa's a friend. She's nice, remember? He held out another piece of food. The Vorkon took it, but its eyes kept darting to Lisa's approaching hand. Almost there, Lisa breathed. Her fingers were inches from the creature's leg now. Just a little more. She touched the Vorkon's scales. The creature flinched but didn't pull away. Jake could see the effort it took to stay still, to trust that this touch wouldn't bring pain. Lisa applied the regenerative patch smoothly. It adhered to the scales, glowing with a soft green light. Done, she said. Now it just needs to work. How does it feel? Jake asked the Vorkon. Strange, right? But not bad, just different. The creature looked down at its leg, confused by the tingling sensation. It lifted the paw and set it down again. Then it did something that made Jake's throat tight with emotion. It looked at Lisa and made a soft, chirping sound. "Was that a thank you?" Lisa asked, wonder in her voice. "I think so," Jake said. Over the next hour, they stayed with the Vorkon while the patch worked. Jake kept providing food and gentle words. Lisa monitored the treatment progress, and slowly, visibly, the creature's body language changed. The tension in its muscles eased. The constant slight tremor in its injured legs stopped. For the first time in who knew how long, the Vorkon wasn't in pain. It stood up and took a few steps. The limp was gone. The creature looked at its leg in amazement, then began to move around the chamber with a grace that had been missing before. It wasn't pacing anymore. It was playing. It jumped up on the platforms, testing its strength. It spun in circles, celebrating its freedom from pain. "I've never seen anything like this," Lisa said. Tears were running down her face. "Look how happy it is." Jake was crying too. He couldn't help it. The Vorkon was transformed. All that rage and fear had been covering up pain. Now that the pain was gone, the creature's true nature was emerging. It was gentle, playful, beautiful. The Vorkon bounded back to Jake and did something extraordinary. It lowered its massive head and pressed it against Jake's chest. The gesture was unmistakable. Affection. Jake wrapped his arms around the creature's neck. "You're welcome," he whispered. "You're so welcome." Outside the chamber, a crowd had gathered. Emperor Zalthor stood at the window with Velmon, Kate, Greg, and dozens of others. They watched in silence as the human embraced the Vorkon that had terrified 17 handlers. "Impossible," Velmon said, but there was no anger in his voice, only awe. "In 3 days, this human has accomplished what we could not in months. He showed compassion where we showed dominance," Emperor Zalthor said. "He saw a suffering creature where we saw only a beast to be controlled. We have much to learn from humans." Over the following days, Jake continued his work with the Vorkon. He began teaching it simple commands using positive reinforcement. When it sat on command, it got treats and praise. When it followed Jake around the chamber, he told it what a good boy it was. The words didn't matter. The tone did. The creature learned quickly. It was intelligent, Jake realized. All that violence had made everyone think it was simple and aggressive. But the Vorkon was actually clever. It figured out what Jake wanted and enjoyed pleasing him. It would perform its commands and then look at Jake expectantly, waiting for praise. "Who's a good boy?" Jake would say, and the creature's scales would shift to that warm, happy color. Velmon came to watch the training sessions. At first, he stood apart, his posture defensive. But gradually, he came closer. He started asking questions. "Why do you reward it for simple behaviors?" he asked one day. "Why not save rewards for complex tasks?" "Because every behavior is complex for a creature that's learning to trust," Jake explained. "When it sits on command, it's not just sitting, it's choosing to be vulnerable. To trust that I won't hurt it while it's in that position, that deserves praise." "I see," Velmon said quietly. "I have been a handler for 30 years. I thought I understood creatures, but I was wrong about many things." "Not wrong," Jake said, "just limited. Your methods work for some animals. Mine work for others. The key is knowing which approach each individual needs." Velmon nodded. "Will you teach me? I wish to learn these human methods." Jake smiled. "Of course. We'll start tomorrow." The day of the coronation ceremony arrived. Emperor Zalthor needed to appear before the Galactic Council with the Vorkon at his side. It would be the creature's first time in public, since it went violent. Everyone was nervous except Jake. "It'll be fine," he assured Kate. "The Vorkon trusts me, and I'll be right there with it." They entered the council chamber together. Jake walked beside the Emperor, and the Vorkon walked beside Jake. Its scales were a brilliant, peaceful blue. Its head was high and proud. It looked magnificent. The council members gasped. They had heard about the human's success, but seeing it was different. The creature that had been considered dangerous now moved with calm dignity. When Emperor Zalthor took his seat, the Vorkon lay down beside him exactly as tradition required. Jake stepped back, giving them space. The Emperor reached down and placed his hand on the creature's head. The formal bonding gesture. The Vorkon's eyes closed in contentment. "My people," Emperor Zalthor said to the council, "today I present the new council members for your blessing, and I am able to do so because of the human Jake Morrison, who taught us that strength comes not from dominance, but from compassion." The ceremony proceeded without incident. The Vorkon remained calm and majestic throughout. When it was over, Jake felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Velmon. "You have changed everything," the handler said. "Not just for the Emperor. For all of us who work with creatures. You have shown us a better way." "No Burges." Jake looked at the Vorkon, now resting peacefully at the Emperor's side. "I just showed you what I learned from 10,000 years of human history. We've been bonding with animals since we were living in caves. We learned that love works better than fear. Every single time." 6 months after Jake first sat down with the Vorkon, he stood in a newly constructed facility on the Galactic Council Station. The sign above the entrance read, "Interspecies Animal Relations Center," in 12 different languages. Earth had donated the initial funding, and 7 other species had contributed resources. Jake's office overlooked a large observation garden where several creatures were currently being introduced to their new handlers. He watched a young Drex carefully offering food to a nervous 6-legged creature from the Corin homeworld. The Drex moved slowly, patiently, just as Jake had taught him. "You look satisfied," Kate said, entering with 2 cups of coffee. She had been promoted to Earth's senior ambassador after the success with the Vorkon. Earth's reputation in the council had grown considerably. "I am," Jake admitted. "Look at them. 3 months ago, that Drex would have tried to dominate that creature. Now he's taking his time. Building trust. You've trained 23 handlers from 8 different species," Kate said. "The council wants to expand the program. They're asking if you can train 50 more by next year." Jake winced. "That's a lot. I'm still learning myself." "You're being modest," Kate said. "You've bonded 12 previously dangerous creatures with their intended handlers. The success rate is 100%. That's not luck, Jake. That's skill." A knock at the door interrupted them. Velmon entered, followed by a young woman Jake didn't recognize. She looked nervous, her hands clasped in front of her. "Jake Morrison," Velmon said formally. "I present Amy Chen. She is a new handler from Earth. Ambassador Sullivan sent her to train with you." "Another human handler?" Jake said, surprised but pleased. "Welcome, Amy. What's your background?" "I worked at a marine rescue center," Amy said. "Dolphins, seals, sea lions. I heard what you did with the Vorkon, and I wanted to help. We need more human perspective," Velmon said. "Your species has a unique understanding of creature behavior. My people, the Talvesh, are beginning to study Earth's history of animal domestication, 10,000 years of building bonds with other species. It is unprecedented in the galaxy. Most species just modify creatures genetically to make them compliant," Kate explained to Amy. "Humans are the only ones who learn to bond with creatures as they are. That's because we didn't have advanced technology," Jake said. "We couldn't modify genetics or use neural dampeners. We had to learn to communicate across the species barrier. In a way, our primitive ancestors gave us an advantage." Greg entered next, grinning. "Jake, you need to see this. The Emperor's here," and he brought Shadow. Jake smiled at the nickname. He had started calling the Vorkon Shadow during their sessions, and it had stuck. Even Emperor Zalthor used it now. They walked to the main training area. Emperor Zalthor stood there in his formal robes, and beside him was Shadow. The Vorkon saw Jake, and made a happy chirping sound. It pulled against the ceremonial leash, wanting to run to him. "Go ahead," the Emperor said, releasing the leash. Shadow bounded across the space and nearly knocked Jake over with enthusiasm. The creature was still massive, but now that mass was pure joy instead of rage. It pressed its head against Jake's chest, scales shifting to warm colors. "Who's a good boy?" Jake said, rubbing Shadow's neck. "Who's the best boy in the whole galaxy?" Shadow chirped again, tail wagging so hard it was almost dangerous to anyone standing nearby. Emperor Zalthor approached with a smile. "My friend, I came to thank you personally. 6 months ago, my position was weak. My ability to rule was questioned. Now, my people see me with Shadow, and remember why the bonding tradition matters. You saved more than a creature. You saved my government." "Shadow did the hard work," Jake said. "He chose to trust again. That took courage, and you gave him reason to have that courage," the Emperor said. He gestured to the training area. "I see you are teaching others your methods." "Trying to," Jake said. "Some species are picking it up faster than others. The Talvesh are actually really good at it. They have natural patience." "We had patience," Velmon corrected, joining them. "We simply misapplied it. We were patient in our dominance when we should have been patient in our compassion." A commotion at the entrance drew everyone's attention. A delegation of Corin officials entered, followed by handlers carrying containment equipment. At their center was a cage holding a creature that looked like a cross between a bear and a spider, with thick fur and 8 legs. It was snarling and throwing itself against the bars. "That's a Greth," Lisa said, appearing beside Jake with her scanner. She was now the center's head xenobiologist. "They're saying it's killed 4 handlers. They want to put it down. But their council wants to try the human method first." Jake studied the creature. It was terrified. He could see it in every movement. The aggression was a defense mechanism. "What do you think?" Kate asked. Jake looked at Shadow, who was still leaning against him contentedly. Then, he looked at Amy, who was watching the Greth with professional interest rather than fear. He looked at Velmon, who had learned to see creatures differently. He looked at all the handlers in training, representing species from across the galaxy. "I think we can help," Jake said. "But it's going to take time. And patience. And a lot of trust." The Corin official stepped forward. "We were told you are the only one who can handle dangerous creatures. Is this true?" No," Jake said. "I'm just the one who learned that they're not dangerous. They're scared. There's a difference." He approached the cage slowly. The Greth backed into the corner. All 8 legs tensed. Its eyes were wild with fear. "Hey there," Jake said softly. "I know you're scared. I know you think everyone wants to hurt you. But I promise, we're going to help. It might take a while. But we've got time." The Greth snarled, but Jake saw the uncertainty behind it. "Amy," he said, "come here. This is going to be your first assignment." Amy's eyes went wide. "Me? But I just arrived, and you've got good instincts," Jake said. "I can tell. Plus, you've worked with traumatized animals before. This is just another traumatized animal, bigger and with more legs, but the same principles apply." He turned to Velmon. "You'll supervise. Amy leads, but you provide guidance. She'll teach you the marine rescue approaches, and you'll teach her what you've learned about alien creature behavior." Velmon bowed his head. "It would be my honor." "What about you?" Kate asked Jake. "What will you do?" Jake looked around the facility. More delegations were arriving, bringing creatures that needed help. Handlers were practicing patience in the training yards. Lisa was explaining creature biology to a group of students. Shadow was happily accepting pets from anyone who approached. "I'm going to keep doing what I've been doing," Jake said. "Teaching. Learning. Helping people see that dominance isn't strength. Compassion is." "The council wants to offer you a position," Kate said. "Director of the Interspecies Animal Relations Program. Full authority to expand the center, train more handlers, and establish facilities on other worlds." "That's a big job," Jake said. "You're the only one who can do it," Kate said. "You started something here, Jake. Something important. Every week, we get more requests for help. Creatures that were considered lost causes, handlers who failed with traditional methods. They're all coming to us because humans taught the galaxy something it didn't know. That animals have feelings, Jake said. That they deserve kindness. That every creature, no matter how dangerous it seems, is just trying to survive, Kate corrected. And that the right approach isn't control, it's connection. Jake scratched Shadow behind the ears. The Vorkon's eyes closed in bliss. I'll take the job, he said. But only if Shadow can be my assistant director. He's the one who really proved that connection works. Emperor Zalthor laughed. I think I can arrange for Shadow to work part-time. He does still have ceremonial duties. Over the next 3 months, the center expanded rapidly. Jake trained 50 new handlers as requested, then 50 more when the demand kept growing. Each one learned the same fundamental truth that Jake had discovered in that containment chamber with Shadow. Fear looks like aggression. Pain looks like violence. And beneath both, there's always a creature that just wants to feel safe. Amy became one of the best handlers, her marine rescue experience translating perfectly to alien creatures. Velmon published a paper on the human approach that became required reading for handlers across the galaxy. Lisa's medical treatments, combined with patient trust building, saved creatures that everyone else had given up on. But the real success stories were the creatures themselves. The Greth that had killed 4 handlers now worked with Amy, calm and gentle. A Zirion predator that had been too aggressive for military use became a peaceful companion to a young Zirion soldier who treated it with kindness. A Korin herd animal that had been labeled dangerous was reunited with its handler after Jake realized it was just protecting its young. Each success reinforced the same lesson. Humans weren't special because they were tough or advanced. They were special because they had learned, over thousands of years of living with dogs and cats and horses and countless other species, how to speak the language of trust. 1 year after Jake first sat with Shadow, the Galactic Council held a ceremony. They awarded Earth a seat on the Animal Welfare Committee, a group that set standards for creature treatment across all member species. It was a prestigious position, usually reserved for species that had been in the Council for centuries. We recognize, the Council speaker said, that humanity brings unique value to our community. Their approach to creature relations has revolutionized our understanding of animal consciousness and emotional needs. They have shown us that compassion is not weakness, but wisdom. Jake stood for Earth, with Kate beside him. Shadow sat at his other side, wearing a ceremonial collar that marked him as an honored companion. The Vorkon's scales were the peaceful blue that meant contentment. After the ceremony, a young Talvesh handler approached Jake nervously. Sir, I have a question. How did you know it would work? When you first entered with the Vorkon, how did you know it wouldn't kill you? Jake thought about that moment. Sitting on the floor with a terrified creature that could have torn him apart. Making himself vulnerable. Choosing trust over dominance. I didn't know, he said honestly. But I knew that everything else had failed. And I knew that on Earth, we had 10,000 years of proof that kindness works better than force. So I gambled that the same was true out here. And if you had been wrong? Jake looked at Shadow, who was now greeting other ceremony attendees with gentle enthusiasm. The creature that had once been called dangerous, broken, unsalvageable, then I would have been wrong, Jake said. But I wasn't. Because creatures, whether they're from Earth or halfway across the galaxy, all want the same things. Safety, kindness, someone to care about them. That's universal. The handler nodded. Thank you. I'm training with Amy Chen next month. I hope to learn as you did. As the handler walked away, Kate smiled at Jake. You know what you've done, right? You didn't just save Shadow. You changed how the entire galaxy thinks about creatures. Shadow did that, Jake said. I just asked him who's a good boy. Kate laughed. That's going to be in the history books, you know. The human who saved galactic animal relations by treating a deadly predator like a pet dog. Good, Jake said. Because that's exactly what I did. And it worked, because underneath all the scales and teeth and alien biology, creatures are still creatures. They still feel fear and pain and hope. They still deserve to be treated with love. Shadow chirped and pressed his head against Jake's hand. Jake rubbed the Vorkon's scales, feeling the warmth and trust that radiated from the creature. This was what humans brought to the galaxy. Not weapons or technology or conquest, just the simple, revolutionary understanding that every living thing deserved kindness. "Come on, buddy," Jake said to Shadow. "We've got more work to do. More creatures to help, more handlers to train." Shadow followed him eagerly, tail wagging. The Emperor's beast, once considered the most dangerous creature on the station, now trotted beside the human like a happy dog, because that's exactly what he was, a good boy.